Hi, it's Jane Jackson, and welcome to Your Career Podcast. Here's where you'll get the career tips and inspiration you need to take control of your career. Welcome to episode 277 of Your Career Podcast. Tom Etherington has spent the last decade helping people use LinkedIn to amplify their networking and build a storytelling and branding strategy that gains credibility, trust, and wins business. His company, Connect Content, is the go-to agency for online personal and business branding with LinkedIn strategy, coaching, and content at the heart of each campaign. Before launching Connect Content, Tom interviewed celebrities for 20 years as an entertainment journalist and editor. This experience honed his passion for storytelling and equipped him with the skills to uncover and present compelling narratives for individuals and organizations. We're going to learn all about his career transitions and how he overcame challenges during this interview today. So I can't wait for you to hear more. But also, he is affectionately known as the LinkedIn guy. Tom has presented on leveraging LinkedIn for networking many times, including 2 podcasts with BNI founder Ivan Meisner. His unique ability to tell engaging and authentic stories has made him a sought-after speaker and coach. And a little-known fun fact is that Tom's parents wrote a UK sitcom called Second Thoughts in the 1990s. It actually ran from 1991 to 1994 with 49 episodes, and it was based on his family life. Watched by millions, everyone in the show was a household name, except the actor who played Tom. And that was his first and last role. Now, let's welcome Tom to the show. And welcome, Tom. Good to have you here.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I'm not actually outside. It might look like I am, but it's the painting here. So
It's a beautiful painting of a very nice forest scene. So that's good. And I'm
absolutely.
very glad you're here because you are the LinkedIn guy. To kick us off, tell me about your early aspirations when you were a little boy.
I wanted to be a footballer, a
Oh,
professional or soccer player, depending on where you are in the world. And to the point where I actually wanted to change my name to Trevor because Trevor Brooking was a famous player back in the UK, played for West Ham and England. And I was super keen to be a professional footballer. Didn't quite pan out that way, but that was, in my 8-year-old to sort of 14-year-old self felt there was a chance. Even now, maybe there is a chance, in the Rafa, there's an over 50 Premier League maybe. But yeah, that was my earliest sort of passion, as it were.
well, it didn't pan out, did it?
No, I didn't know yet.
There is always hope. That's a
There's
good
always hope. Yeah,
never say die. It doesn't matter what age we are, we can still reach for our goals, even in a slightly different form, yes?
absolutely. You never know.
So so when you realized that the footballing, the soccer wasn't going to happen, how did things progress from there?
I guess it's difficult to know where to start with these things when you've done quite a lot. But just, I suppose a good place to start is kind of leaving school. So I got my A levels at school, and then what I did for a couple of years, I went out and I worked everywhere. I had a job from a bricklayer to I worked in a bookmaker's, William Hill, which is a bookmaker's in England. So I was there like taking bets on horses and football and things like that. Great job as a fun sort of thing to do. But then I thought I actually do want to be a journalist. So it was a thing that a sort of passion I had from the start. I come from a family of writers and journalists as well. So I actually went back slightly later, not that later, but sort of early 20s. I went to university and did an English degree. So that was really my way of thinking I'll get into journalism or something. English always interested me anyway, the sort of words, and that kind of side of things. But so I went to did my English degree and then I left and I got a job, which is again more of a fun job. You know how those jobs can sometimes you get a bit stuck in them because they are fun and lots of nice people. And it was actually for a company called SHL. which at the time was called Saville and Holdsworth. And you're probably aware of this because they do psychometric testing, I think that's
Yes.
the phrase. They
Hmm.
put on courses for, to tell if certain people have an aptitude. So I didn't realise the connection then, but absolutely, you know this well.
Yeah.
I worked in the place where they put the courses on, which was like a golf resort, absolutely beautiful place. And I was helping organise the courses, do all those sort of things. And then one day someone come up to me and said, "You've been here 2 years next week." And I literally handed my notice in that day. I went, this is not the plan. I had a 2 weeks work experience kind of at the Evening Standard booked in, which was I was going to take as holiday, but I actually handed my notice and I went, this is not where I was supposed to be. So I kind of sacked myself effectively from that job with the idea that it would kickstart me into doing something else. That was the main plan. So that was one of the earliest transitions, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, it's so good at such an early age that you realize this is not for me,
Yeah,
isn't really my calling, or I don't know if you even thought that, but to
yeah.
understand that, okay, I've been here for a certain amount of time. Is this all there is? You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
exactly what happened. And it was like I say, it took that someone to say to me, I think, for me to realise this. And it's a little bit easier when you haven't got kids in the family to do that. Just go, I'll work something out. Even then, it was a little bit dicey thing to do because I didn't have anything to go to.
Mm.
But that idea was something I really wanted to do. And I think because I had that couple of weeks work experience booked in at the newspaper, that I thought, that is something I want to do. So at least I was even slightly heading in the right direction at that point.
Yeah.
So
I think
yeah,
work experience is it's a bit like try before you buy, and
yeah,
makes a
absolutely, yeah.
huge difference because at least you know what the environment is like. And so you ended up becoming a deputy editor at the London Evening Standard, yes?
But not quite. I was the deputy editor. Maybe I've misread that on my LinkedIn profile of the TV department, the entertainment. So I was a
Ah,
entertainment and TV writer
hmm.
for that section. So that was about interviewing people who are on TV and films and things like that, and writing. What was great about that newspaper is that they really let you have free reign. They wanted to create personalities from the journalists, from the writers, so you could write whatever you wanted. They wanted it a bit kind of like edgy and interesting and things like that. So we used to do very unusual TV previews of regular TV shows, which were quite fun. It was a really fun place to work as well. A little bit old school journalism. So yeah, that role was from that work experience slowly worked into, someone's going away, can you do a couple of weeks here, can you do a couple of weeks there, and eventually it built up to this more permanent role there, which is fantastic, somewhere I really wanted to be. So that was great.
Mm. You must have interviewed some very interesting celebrities and TV personalities.
Yeah, there is a bit of few. Billy Connolly is one of
Oh, I
which everyone
love
knows.
Billy Connolly.
Yeah, Billy Connolly is fantastic. The other one that people ask about was Gunther from Friends. Do you remember
Oh,
Gunther
yes.
from Friends?
Hmm.
Random one. And also the one that came up the other day when I was talking about this was the woman who got eaten by Jaws at the very start of the film Jaws. Do you remember that?
Really?
Very interesting person. I won't go into
Uh-huh.
her story now, but it's a lot of those ones, and a lot of TV celebrities from UK TV shows and American ones mainly. Yeah, so,
Mhm.
and a few
Oh,
like Home and Aways and things back in the day. So
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
it's good
but
fun.
Billy Connolly must have been such a highlight. I just absolutely adored him. And also,
Yeah,
your parents are pretty well known in the TV industry, yes, because they wrote a UK sitcom.
they did. They wrote a UK sitcom about our family, which was
Mhm.
interesting. I was probably it would be late teens, and it was
Mhm.
originally a radio play called Second Thoughts, and it was about my mum meeting my stepdad and him being integrated in the family like he was a single guy, and he suddenly had this two kids and a dog and and all the sort of comedy that ensues from that kind of situation. I think it was 3 or 4 series, a spin-off series and things like that. But the interesting thing was though, the guy that played me, that's the only thing he ever did. Whereas my mum was played by Linda Bellingham, who's a household name. My
Mhm.
stepdad was James Bolan, who's a household name. And my sister was played by Julia Sawala, who was in Ab Fab. She was the daughter
Oh,
in Ab Fab.
yes. Uh-huh.
So
Wow.
mine was like the unknown, or the so that was my role. But yeah, really interesting times. Like I say, my family are journalists, and my mum was a journalist, and they turned into comedy script writing. She still does. She's almost 80, and she's a comedy script writer still. for
Oh,
Joanna Lumley. So she writes a Radio 4 play called Conversations from a Long Marriage, if anyone wants to tune in. She'll be pleased that I gave it a plug. So
ah, Conversations from a
Long Marriage. So it's
con-
with Joanna Lumley. It's a Radio 4.
from a long
So
marriage. Ah, that's
yeah,
so interesting. I'm definitely going to add that to the show notes and find the
there
link.
you go. Yeah, absolutely. She'll be pleased about
Uh,
that.
Well, what inspiring parents you would have. You know, when it comes to careers, so often we are influenced by our parents, aren't we? And
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and so you getting into journalism and writing, and you're very much a storyteller now. They must have had a huge influence on you. What was the most inspiring thing about your parents when you were growing up?
I guess, I mean, my mum and dad split up when I was about 10. So my dad's in computer engineering, but I was stayed with my mum, and I guess it is quite exciting, quite glamorous. Like we had photo shoots at our house. We had Kate Bush doing a photo shoot at our house, things like that. I didn't really know who she was at the time, but now you look back on it. Um, I think I was, maybe it's just my sister's a writer as well, so I think maybe it was a little bit in the family, and obviously we had that inspiration to that we can do this. You know, we're good writers. We know how to talk to people. So interviewing people was a big thing for my mum initially. Excuse me, my mum initially, and my sister. My mum was to interview. She was a music journalist, like people like Sting and things like that. So I think it was just. It feels like it was in the blood, but it's also quite a nice, glamorous world in small G, glamorous world, I'd say.
No, that would have been a very interesting upbringing for you. And so, from the London Evening Standard and interviewing lots of celebrities and TV personalities, you became the TV editor of EMAP.
Yeah, so EMAP's publishing house, so they had quite a
Mm.
few different titles. But the main one I worked on, so I got kind of headhunted. I think that's a bit too glamorous a word for what it was, but I got approached to work on a launch of a new magazine.
Mhm.
And it was, if you know the UK market, there's a magazine over there called Heat, which is quite celebrity focused,
Mm.
fairly young. We launched one called Closer, which is for a slightly older demographic and had a lot of real life stories in it. So I was the entertainment editor on that magazine, and it was a phenomenal success. This magazine,
Mhm.
it used to sell 500,000 copies a week. It was just
Mhm.
incredible.
Wow.
And that was a complete launch from five people sitting around in a room to building a whole team and and producing this national magazine. So that was a fantastic sort of introduction to the world of magazine. I've always worked on very high, like the Evening Standard, the daily newspaper. Closer as a weekly, so it's just constant deadlines, constant. So I think that sort of stands me in good stead now when you're dealing with clients and they need things quickly, or you want to provide them quickly, whether they need them or not. Just look after them. That process is now ingrained. It's been such a long time, coming. So yeah, that was a really good place to work as well. In terms of the creative side of things as well.
Yeah, so from the London Evening Standard to EMAP and then to Bauer Media, when you
Yeah,
made that change in company where you worked, what
yeah,
prompted each change? The first one, when you were with SHL, initially was because you realized it wasn't for you.
yeah,
And going to the Evening Standard, moving to EMAP, moving to Bauer Media, which I know is the next
yeah.
place where you worked. What prompted each change? How did it feel?
It felt the first one I mentioned was fairly daunting, but I was probably a bit younger and a bit more confident in terms of like I can pull this off, it's no problem. And I felt like the job that I was in at that time, I felt I could probably get something similar if the desired career took longer. I could take up another job doing something else. So it wasn't like a huge leap of faith, but still a leap nonetheless. The the one where I was at the Evening Standard, that was quite a difficult one to leave because it was such a good job, great place to work. But that was an offer to run an entire department of a magazine, like a big with heavy investment and a big opportunity to make your mark in that world and it was a great success. So it's like, and then when you move on, and it's interesting what you say about the Bauer one because the Bauer was actually in Australia.
Hmm.
So, and the reason we went to Australia, my wife, who I met on the Closer magazine, got offered a job in Australia. So, cut a long story short, she was previously had been in Australia, was editor of Smash Hits magazine here, the old teen music mag. came back to the UK to work on this launch of Closer. We met, and then she got off on another job here. So I moved to Australia. And the funny thing is about moving to Australia, I thought, right, this is a chance to do something else. I'm going to go and work on the ferries in Sydney Harbour. I'm going to do something completely different. But because you come from London with a good reputation in a very fiercely competitive publishing world, I sent out my CV to half a dozen publishing houses here, and they all went, "Oh my God, yes, come in," but and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So I ended up working for another magazine company here, which was I kind of thought I might have an opportunity to do something different just for the sake of doing something different because it was a new country. You know, Fran was still in magazines, but I think that's an interesting point because I think sometimes because of the level you get to, the income levels and the security, etc., it can be quite difficult to transition into something different. I'm sure you have hundreds of these conversations a week, but that was an interesting one because I would have liked to have potentially done. I love this world, don't get me wrong, but you know, interviewing people, storytelling, etc. And we'll come on to how we moved out into this more recent times. But yeah, I think that was a interesting one. You must come people coming at that crossroads quite a lot where they'd love to do something else, but you know,
Yeah, but
they're tied in with
unsure,
it.
and then they fall back into the default. Although
Yeah,
the industry that you're in is a very interesting one. I mean, as a journalist, and now finding out that your wife also is a journalist
yeah,
in magazines, it definitely runs in the family. And so you moved for love, obviously, from the UK
yeah.
to Australia, and settling into Australia and joining Bauer Media.
Mm,
It must have been quite interesting because. Well, I lived in London many years ago, and I remember thinking how incredibly creative the PR, advertising,
mm,
magazine industry is and was back then in the UK. And
mm.
I thought everywhere else, I mean, people will hate me for saying it, but it seemed like the creativity seemed to pale in comparison elsewhere because they were so funny. And remember the John Lewis Christmas ads
Yeah,
they'd
yeah.
had?
They still do them, don't they? Yeah,
Every
yeah.
year I would look for them on YouTube and watch them because I'd always start crying because they were so good.
Incredible,
Yeah,
incredible. Yeah, yeah,
and it's like it's the storytelling. The
yeah,
storytelling. I remember that one of the John Lewis ones, it was the Man on the Moon. And so
yes. I
kids, do
do
you
remember
remember
that
that
actually. Yeah,
one?
yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
it
That was
was
clever.
kids sending him a present, because he was so far away on the moon. And I thought, it's just, honestly, the creativity is incredible. So when you moved to Australia and you're working here, did you notice a difference? What did you think was, oh, this is great here? And what was not?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest differences probably is how, and I think that the fact that I got every publishing house come back to yes, please come in for a meeting,
Mm,
was the fact that how high regarded, just what you said there, really. If
mhm,
you've done well in London, you you must have something about you because it's
yeah,
highly competitive. But I think there was that interest in making it so in Australia as well that it was definitely a, probably slightly easier to get a decent role, if you like. But um, I noticed it massively improved in the time I was there, just the level of recruitment there, and it became, maybe I just got used to it more, but it became as competitive. There was less titles, I suppose, less opportunity. But yeah,
yeah,
I think the desire to hire people or get people in of high caliber really pushed that, and a lot of the Bauer Media was actually, it was originally called EMAP, and EMAP was actually an English
mm,
publishing house,
mm,
came to Australia with a lot of the English magazines. So most of the people I initially worked with were English. They just
yeah.
were brought over here for a certain, amount of time.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was and obviously that led to a kind of, after a while, I suppose the next transition is that magazines are dying out at
Yeah.
that point. It had that, that kind of. So what do you do next? It's the kind of,
Yeah,
yeah,
and so and is that what happened? Because, with publishing, it's changed so much and
yeah,
it's had its heyday. And of course, we
yeah,
still love our magazines, but so many have disappeared now, which is such a shame. And so from there, you became a freelance writer and a copywriter,
yeah.
editor. And is it because of organizational change that you went freelance, or did you just think, okay, enough of employment, I want to do my own thing?
That was kind of partly, my wife Fran had a very good job and still continues to have very good jobs, but she was a editor of a magazine
Hmm.
called New Woman at the time.
Hmm.
and has gone on to be editors of other magazines. And we had kids at that point as well. So one of the main reasons for me going freelance was that I was able to I still work for some mags in the UK as well, so in a freelance basis, plus the Australian ones. And I could fit it around, especially Ivy, who's the youngest one.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't, she was only at daycare 3 days a week, etc., etc. So that's part of the reason why, or the main reason why. And the other reason was, yeah, magazines for me, you could just see what way it was going, and the career opportunities were getting less. It was getting devalued. I didn't want to write just for websites. It was just not valued in the same way. So that kind of evolved into copywriting and early content marketing. It wasn't called that then, but thinking back on it, that's what we were doing. Is really working with the business owner or business and going, how can we get people interested in what we do? So that's kind of where it started, I guess.
Yeah.
That transition into copywriting.
Yeah. I think also going freelance because of that flexibility that it affords you. And so you made that conscious choice,
Yeah,
young children, being able to, be more of a hands-on dad too, while your wife continued.
yeah, yeah,
It's such a luxury to be able to do that. I mean, it's
yeah,
wonderful and so good for the children as well. And so many people these days, they're trying to balance work with children and childcare rearing. And because we're very much in a sandwich generation now, where, we're kind of marrying and having children a little bit later, and that means our
yeah,
parents are that little bit older, and then we're looking after children, then we're looking after aged parents as well. And it ends up
yeah,
such a juggle and very stressful. So running your own business, being self-employed or freelancing,
mm,
it just gives you that little bit more time or space to breathe as well, which is good. And so from
mm.
your freelance work, then you decided to create your own business. And now you are the LinkedIn guy, okay? And storytelling,
Not
obviously.
self-styled, but
Okay, but connect content, that's your
yeah,
business. And you provide LinkedIn coaching and training for businesses so that they can tell their story effectively on LinkedIn. Yes. What
mm.
what what was the seed? What was that little spark of a moment when you thought, oh, this is what I'm going to do? LinkedIn's a place to be.
Well, I think initially when you were talking about that transition period when I was more freelance and then launched my business, that was really copywriting. So I thought, look, I can tell, I can write, I can interview people, I can tell stories. So what I do is say it was yourself, I'd interview you to create your content. So it wouldn't be boring. It would be like, it's usually with founders because they're much more passionate about the businesses. So I would just interview them, transcribe it, tell their story, create their website. And then I actually started to go into a regular networking events, and I couldn't believe how many people were not on LinkedIn. They were literally going to this event every week, and then the event would finish and there's nothing. And I was like, so I started talking about it to people and going, why are you not on LinkedIn now? And they all went, I don't want a job. I've got my own business. Why would I be on LinkedIn? You can imagine what that, and this is 10 years ago. So I was like, this is weird. So I just started doing that as part of the thing. So say if I was doing your website and everything, copywriting, I go, hey, look, I think we should do the LinkedIn profile. And they'd all go, why? But we do it anyway. So, and that kind of evolved. It just, you can see how it lines up with my original journalism, where I'm just interviewing people, finding out what's interesting. People don't know what's interesting about themselves. That's the thing. So you actually talk to them and you go, oh, yeah, really? Is that interesting? Or yeah, I've never heard anyone doing that. So you get these stories, and that's just to create their profile and everything, and then ongoing the content. So it just kind of evolved. And then during COVID, it became even more of a thing. Because if I was about to Zoom you, I'd be straight on the LinkedIn profile. Who am I about to speak to? Have a little scan. So more people wanted it then. And now it's evolved into, it's probably the main part of the business. I would still, if I was still working with you, I would help you if you want to do a website, doing if you want other content. But I really want to work with people who are need to market themselves in some respect, market themselves with a bit of confidence and need help doing that. So I often work with founders of businesses, as I said, coaches, people who coach need to have that, use themselves as a big marketing tool, and often executives, CEOs, but usually when they're transitioning into something else. I work with quite a few who are like, I was the CEO of this business and now I'm going to launch my own consultancy or something like that. And their story is completely connected to the old organization. It's like, where do we start? So yeah, does that answer it?
But that's where being able to interview, to speak to someone, to talk to them, to ask interesting questions, and then you form such a good idea about, oh, this is what this person's all about. And so
Yeah,
often we always think that our story is boring. We have no story,
yeah,
you know, unless some disastrous thing has happened in our lives, or we've got, you know, like we're
yeah,
become very famous or something. But everyone always feels a little bit ordinary. And it's like, oh, no one will want to know. But it's fascinating. It's a little bit like for you, I know you as the LinkedIn guy, yes, and we met, you know, through LinkedIn, which is great. So it's nice to be able
yeah,
to take the connection online to offline, which makes a big difference too. But I had no idea about your upbringing and, you know, what your parents did and your sister and your wife and your children and all of this. And now I'm forming a really clear picture of who you are. And I think,
yeah.
what a nice guy. What a nice guy. And he's from the UK too.
Working.
So, so yeah, I know exactly right. And so by asking questions and learning, I think, oh, okay, well, you're interesting.
Yeah. And that's
And
exactly
and
how
then
I
you
work. Yeah.
yeah, and then you form a connection. So it makes a lot of sense, especially when it comes to networking. What people don't realize is that LinkedIn is a professional networking site.
Oh, no.
Yes, when
Yeah.
it started, it was for job seekers mainly, but it's networking and it's all relationships. So it's whether you're looking for a job or whether you're building your business, it's still human to human. Well, actually, it's bot to bot these days, isn't
I know
it?
you got to be careful, haven't you? That's
AI.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, because you know something interesting is that uh, approximately 1 in 4 job applicants are a bot now, and they're trying to
No.
infiltrate businesses. And if they because you know they're hiring so many remote workers
Wow.
now. It was
Yeah,
this
yeah.
horrifying article that I read about 2, 3 weeks ago, and then they get access to the company online sites and
Yeah, and you can
passwords and all
and
this sort
how
of
they kind of
thing.
all
Yeah,
their kind of like processes and
yeah,
systems and oh my God.
yeah. And so, and I just think that it's because everything is so AI, and I've embraced AI.
Mm.
It's very good as a
Yeah.
productivity tool as well. And I have a Jane Career Coach
Mm.
GPT chatbot to help
Oh,
people, which is
yeah, great.
free. Yes, but it's gone a little bit too far, or it's going a little bit too far because people are missing this
Yeah.
connection, the conversation, the art of
Oh,
conversation,
excuse
which
me.
is, yeah. Oh, well, that's interesting. It's
Hang
always
on a sec.
interesting when we're recording something and
You know what it was?
something happens. And for those of you who aren't looking at the video,
Yeah.
Tom went completely
I
dark.
went completely back. I'll just tell you what it is for anyone who
Yeah.
was watching, is
Mhm.
that it has a motion sensor in here and I've
Yeah.
been sat still for too long.
You need to wave your arms around a little
I
bit.
know, yeah. If you see me doing that from now on, it's anyway, sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, so LinkedIn, you're the LinkedIn guy. Let's find out more about your business then. So let's get a few LinkedIn tips for you while we're here. Yes. So
Yeah,
if someone ran a business and
yeah.
they want to promote their business and really make a genuine connection on LinkedIn, what
Mm.
would you recommend that they should do initially?
Initially is get the core right, get the framework right. And initially, one of the biggest things I get asked, and you'll know where I'm going with this, is should I concentrate on the company page or my personal profile? And I always say the personal profile because people connect with people. We've just been talking about that.
Mm,
So while you give a little bit of love, obviously, to company page, that's a business asset. The biggest asset is your personal profile and how you can connect with people and who are going to be attracted. So I'd say two things around that is get the core messaging right, but also get a campaign together. And I don't mean an ad campaign, it's a reason to use LinkedIn, a purpose for using LinkedIn. And almost like getting the flag you want to stick on the hill. This is what I'm all about, kind of thing. Like the way you help, job seekers. No one is in any doubt what you do when they go to your profile. And most people think they don't have that, but they do if you sit down and work it out. And also you may want to do it for 3 months and none of it's set in stone. So you could just go, right, I'm just going to try this for a bit. So make a plan and then yeah, get the framework right was the two things that I'd say there.
Yeah. And you can use LinkedIn so effectively on the free plan.
Yes,
However,
yeah,
many people do ask me, should I go on to premium? And of course, you get a few more features when you're on premium.
mm,
But in my opinion, and I'd love your opinion, you can use LinkedIn perfectly effectively without becoming a premium member. Would you agree?
yes, 100%. I've got a sales navigator as well, which is another thing that's about, again, I should be called People Navigator, I think, because
Mhm.
it's really about trying to find the people you want to connect with, which you can do on the free LinkedIn. It takes a bit more effort, but 100% you can use the free LinkedIn for pretty much anything. They make the features good, but not quite good enough because they're trying
Mhm.
to tempt you over. They're very clever at that.
Mhm.
But yeah, most people I know will use the free LinkedIn. No problem at all. There's, like you say, there's some nice to have features on there. I think LinkedIn Learning can be very useful as
Mhm.
well. There's a
Mhm.
lot of things on that. But yeah, most people I would suggest maybe try it for a month. If you get it, most will get free for a month. So if you want to have a little play, make sure you're going to actually use it and set an alarm at 28 days. And do I want this before it
Yes.
starts charging you? But yeah, I agree. The free one is perfectly adequate for most people.
Yeah. And also, if someone's urgently looking for a job, I think using that free month that they offer you is a very
Yes,
good time. And then afterwards, you can either continue on and as a premium member and pay for the benefits, or else then you can drop it back if you're no longer quite as active if you're a job seeker. But for
yeah,
business owners, LinkedIn is such a powerful place because if you do a Google search, of course, you'll find their website, but the next thing you tend to find is their LinkedIn or
yeah,
the profiles of the key executives
yeah,
of the organization. So I think that anyone who is not on LinkedIn and promoting their business or themselves, indeed, they should get onto LinkedIn pretty
yeah.
pretty pronto. And if they wanted to get additional advice from you, now obviously I have
Mm,
job seekers coming to me, but say if there's a business owner who wants to know how can I be more effective, or a senior executive who thinks how can I be
yeah.
more effective on LinkedIn, what would be the best way to approach you? Find you on LinkedIn?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's always the best way because we can
Mm,
have a conversation. I find LinkedIn so useful for, like I say, I do a bit of networking and
mm,
people always, the advice has always been like email someone and ask them for a coffee. I'm like, no, connect with them on LinkedIn and it's so
mm,
much more relaxed and chatty. It's like, hey, it was great to meet you at the event earlier. Thought we'd just stay in touch. Now, but the reply will be, absolutely, yeah. I'm based in the city. Why don't we have a coffee? It's so much more. If you send someone an email, it's very like, oh, I've got to commit to something enormous now. So, um, but I think, yeah, I think anyone is, if not just me, if you want to connect with anyone, is to find them on LinkedIn and see what they're all about. Because the great thing about LinkedIn, I think, people sometimes send me someone's website, and A, it's very difficult to find anything about them personally, and B, websites are all very different.
mm,
The best thing about LinkedIn is it's all there.
mm.
There's the banner image, there's the profile, there's the headline, there's like the story. It's there. It's either right or it's wrong. You must get this a lot if you talk about LinkedIn. And when I say, what do you do? And I say, I'll help people with their personal branding, building up their story. The core of it's LinkedIn. And when
Mm.
I say that, I can see them thinking, what's my LinkedIn saying about me right now? They have that, and you can see them. Sometimes a little look of horror goes, I should check that out.
I know they get all worried and think, oh,
Yeah.
don't look at my profile yet until I've updated it.
Yes,
Oh,
I
I'm
know.
so
Yeah.
embarrassed.
Yeah. No, no.
But I mean, everyone's got to start somewhere. And
Mm,
there are so many fabulous features on LinkedIn that you can use, such as the voice pronunciation feature,
yes.
10 seconds to market yourself. You can add video, you can add audio, you can add images of, your either if it's a company, it's, your brand logo or your company people doing things. It's great for
Yeah.
employee advocacy as well, because if you encourage your employees to
Yeah.
post and comment on the company page as well as the senior
Mm,
executives' posts, then it helps to build the brand of the business and show that it's a great place to work because the employees like to support their company.
mm,
And if you've got even a small business with say 10 employees, imagine if those 10 employees shared it to their network, and if each employee has 100 to 1,000 connections, it just
mm.
grows exponentially, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I've worked with quite a few businesses who understand that. And
Mm,
you probably noticed this as well. the biggest change I've seen is businesses allowing people, not allowing, but encouraging people to build a personal brand because they used to be worried that they get headhunted, and
Yeah.
the way LinkedIn is, they will anyway. But while they're there, they may as well be active and building a story around the brand. And like you say, you know, you never know where these connections lead. But yeah, I've worked with quite a few organisations who understand A, the power of retention, and B, the power of attracting, who look at it and go, oh my God. I've had someone recently actually said, who worked for a lawyer client. She owned a law business. And she said to me, "Oh, what do you do?" And I told her, and she said, "Oh, that's the reason one of the reasons I took the job was I followed her on LinkedIn for a while, and I could see that she was across the industry. She was um, the way she talked about the industry, the way she talked about cases, very much resonated with me." And that she said, so, and you never know, people might never tell you that, but if you make that effort, and it can pay you back in so many different ways, I always think.
Yeah, you know what's so interesting is that I get so many inquiries and exploratory conversations because I offer, 15-minute
Yeah,
chat. And I always ask when people book it, how did you find me? And so often it's through LinkedIn and they say,
yeah,
oh, I've been following you for years. I
yeah.
think, well,
I
it
know.
took long enough. I think, well, I didn't need you then. But
Yeah,
because I've stayed top of mind simply from sharing
yeah,
relevant content, and so much content is shared these days on LinkedIn that sometimes it's easy to miss it. So you have to be consistent, and
yeah.
delivering your message all the time, because most people are not on LinkedIn every day,
No,
unless they,
no.
maybe they're actively uh, in the job search, or else they're actively building their business. They might not be on LinkedIn all the time, but when they do turn up and they do a quick scroll, it's if you've been consistent, it's more likely that you'll
Mm,
pop up. Yes. So Tom,
yeah.
if people want to work with you, what's the best way to work with you?
The best way is that I also do the kind of 15-minute
Mm,
little audit of your profile. Let's see where you are, see where you're at, see where you want to be, that kind of thing. But ultimately leads to a program that I do called Brand 360. And the reason it's called Brand 360 is it's not just LinkedIn. I talk about LinkedIn a lot because it's the core. I always think if you get LinkedIn right, you get everything else right.
mm,
So, but it's really about how do we talk about the business on our website with the messaging. And so it's like that is a 3-month program. And the initial part is like getting the core. We interview you, we get your story, we get the core of the messaging right. We make a campaign for you. We evolve the messaging. What does that look like? And then it moves into more like amplifying it. How do we now get the message out there without shouting, without being self-promotional? We don't need to do all
mm,
that, without being salesy, as I say, but with that, making it more of an attractive proposition, for people to connect with you. Help with the network building as well. How do you connect with people? What do you say to them without annoying them? All that kind of stuff. So that program the framework is always the same, but within it, it's completely different. Every person's obviously got their own. So that's like over 3 months. Every fortnight we kind of meet and do a strategy, do the plan. But obviously during that other time as well, we're just still reviewing some of the content and doing other bits along the way. So
mhm.
yeah, that's the kind of the main program that we do. There's a couple of other ones which is more like I do another thing called LinkedIn Momentum, which is once people have done the program, let's make sure you keep it up. So it's like let's make up. It's accountability, it's inspiration. It's like how can we use Chat GPT? Because things like AI, I think you're 100% right. I'm a huge fan of AI, but not so we're sucking the human out of it. We really do need to keep that there. So that is why I've noticed a real thing on LinkedIn. A lot of people are doing much more video, more personal stories and things like that as a bit of a backlash, I think, and it's not a angry backlash. It's just like, whoa, we're going to lose everything here if we're not careful. So how do we, make it still a people on people thing, people to people sort of marketing? I think that's
Yeah.
the
I
main
think
thing.
I think that's a really important side of it because so many people I've noticed now are posting away, and when you're reading it, maybe they've tailored it a little bit, but you can still tell it's AI.
I know, yeah.
It's almost like a formula.
Yeah, 100, yeah. And
And
someone
and
plugged in, yeah,
I read a couple of lines, and oh no, then I've lost interest right away because I'm thinking I don't need to have something that's been regurgitated a million one times with slightly different wording. And everyone,
Yeah,
so many people that I follow are now using this formula, and it's totally put me off. I do like something to be real. And I have to admit, though, much as I love video and LinkedIn loves video and they're really
yeah,
pushing video, I find that I'll watch video with the sound off because I'm usually doing
yeah,
something else. And so it's
yeah.
good to have those captions, but they need to be short because I don't have the patience to watch a 2-minute video. I
I'm
have
the same.
patience to watch a 30-second video.
Yeah,
And so you really need to be short, sharp, and to the point. And I think it's the problem of social media now and the immediacy
yeah,
of everything that we've all lost our capacity to focus.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think LinkedIn is still would be the time where people focus the most. I'd say you
Yeah.
do get a bit of a chance to do all that, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's kind of like, yeah, I always look at the video in the corner. If it says like 4 minutes, I'm like, not sure. I better be really invested in this, And it's, but yeah, I think it's getting that. I do. Funny enough, another thing that people struggle with is actually just putting an iPhone in front of them and talking. So I've got a thing now where we just have a conversation like this,
Mhm.
and then rather than you look at me when you answer, you look into the camera and you speak, and then I'm actually do it like that because conversations are so much easier than just trying to have a monologue straight into a camera. It's intimidating and you forget what you're going to say, but you can just do it's much more relaxing. And it's like this: if you'd have said, right, just tell me about yourself, look directly in the camera, and I'm going to go away for a bit. It'd be like, really? Okay.
You get
But you
all
need to have that
nervous.
conversation. Yeah, you need to have that conversation, don't you? Puts people at ease, but also sparks more interesting discussion anyway, I think.
And it's the same thing also when it comes to a job interview where people think, oh,
Yeah,
the show. Whereas I say, no, it's just a conversation. They just want to get to know you. And LinkedIn really is the perfect platform for us to get to know each other, which I think is
yeah,
wonderful, which brings us to how we met in the first place. So you have Brand 360, which is like a full almost like a marketing campaign for websites,
yeah,
LinkedIn. And then you have your LinkedIn momentum to make sure people
yeah,
don't fall off the wagon when they've started using LinkedIn. And then you have another one where you actually show people how to use AI. So I recommend that everyone find Tom Etherington and connect
yeah,
with him on LinkedIn. I will have the show notes I will have the links in my show notes as well. And
yeah.
I look forward to having another conversation with you soon, Tom. For those of you watching the video, I can see that Tom's connection is a little bit
Lucky I'm not an
dodgy.
IT expert, isn't it? Jesus. Uh,
Yes, I know.
it's
No,
just
we won't
it's just
use you for
everyone.
IT. We'll use you for LinkedIn.
Yes,
For
please do.
sure.
I
Yeah,
think it's going to go off again. It just keeps
yeah.
saying there's a problem with it. But
Well,
technical issues aside, it's been
the
fabulous.
universe is telling us it is now time. So thank you so much for
Maybe.
your time, Tom. It's a pleasure talking to you. We'll see you on LinkedIn
Yes,
and we'll have you on again and discuss properly some LinkedIn strategies at some stage.
yes. And we could talk all day on that
Yeah,
strategies and tips. But it's been fantastic. Thanks,
that's right.
Jane.
You're welcome. Bye now.
See you soon. Bye.
If you enjoyed today's episode of Your Career Podcast, please subscribe because it helps me to reach more people looking for career inspiration and support. And I have something for you. Download my career resources at janejacksoncoach.com. While you're there, take my 2-minute career success quiz. You'll get your results and analysis immediately and recommendations tailored to your specific career needs. See you soon.